Hello everybody. I am posting a video. We did talk about this in class, but I think it's important to show you how I do the piping diagrams and how I'm expecting them to be done. This wasn't something that I originally had students do last year when I first did this project, but I am expecting it from you. It isn't that much work, but I wanted to go through the steps of how to set it up, how to go through it. So if we talked about this in class, I would skip to the end of the video just to see what the end layout looks like. But until that point, feel free to just stick with it. So what I'm going to do at the very beginning is first I'm going to go to my model view and I'm going to try to make it easier for myself to see. So I've got all my layers. Assuming my layer properties pop out. There we go. Right now the zones is kind of an annoyance. I am actually going to leave on trees. In class I turned that off and then I regretted it. But you'll see why I turn off the tree. I don't want to see my hatches, so I'm going to turn off my two hatches. And then I don't want to see foliage. And I also don't want to see playground structures, because that's just that way. Now, what I am going to do prior to not really any of this is I'm going to start creating some layers. Okay, I'm going to ultimately come up with 4 different types of layers. We have 3 different types of pipes that we use, but I'm also going to include a pipe for, well, I'm going to include a layer for my water fountains, just so that I can draw my water fountains on a layer. If I want to include them on any of my other drawings, I can always shut that off. But we'll do that. So start by just creating a layer. We'll call this piping. This will be sanitary sewer. Sanitary sewer pipes are the kind of pipes that are used to carry treated water, sewage water. This would be like when you flush your toilet or run water down a sink. My sanitary sewer lines, I'm going to make them be a nice brown color, because quite frankly that makes sense to me. And then I'm going to go in and change the line type. Now, in each of the lines for the piping, usually they're created by a company. The company will specifically specify this is for this type of pipe. It'll actually include the words that are needed in there, like the diameter of the pipe, the depth of the pipe, something like that, the material of the pipe, and it's very specific to the line. It'll actually show up in the line. It's kind of cool. We don't have that privilege, so instead I'm going to go in here and I'm going to look for a different line. So here we'll do, I've got the ISO dash double dot. I kind of like that. I'll go ahead and bring that in, and then I will select it and hit OK. And you'll notice that this updates from continuous to AutoCAD ISO 12, whatever that is. So I've got one line in here. I'm going to go ahead and add in 3 more layers. This one will be piping, and this will be storm sewer. Okay, a storm sewer is basically like if you see a drain on the side of the road, that's a storm sewer. It's meant to handle runoff water. Storm sewers can be piped directly into things like rivers or things like lakes. They don't have to necessarily go straight into a treatment facility, which is where the sanitary sewage has to go into. So theoretically, I could pipe all of my storm sewage into my lake, but I feel like that would just bring in a lot of trash. And I don't really want to have that in my lake, so I'm actually going to route the storm sewer away from the lake. It'll probably go into some kind of a reservoir where the trash can sit and then kind of collect from the city. I'm going to change the color on this. This one is going to be a little bit more of a darker purple, because why not? And then I'm going to change the line style on this. I don't want to use the exact same line style for all 3 of my pipes. I actually want to do a different one for each of them. So here I had the dash double dot. Here I'm going to use the double dash dot. It's only slightly different, but they are different. And it will show up as different on the pipe, especially since they'll be at a different color. I'll add the last kind of piping, and this will be the city supply. Okay, this comes from the city. It goes straight from the water treatment plant into kind of a water distribution center. I'm going to make this blue because that's pretty standard for a water income pipe. And then I'm going to load a different type of piping diagram. Here I'm actually going to use, oh man, this is very similar to the type of line that would be created by a company specifically for piping. Oh no, I would prefer to use that for an actual fence, so I won't. Instead, I'll jump up here and I will just do a dash space, or just an ISO dash, I guess. An ISO dash is already loaded in. I'll just load that. Grab it, and there I have my 3 pipings. Now I will create one more layer, and what this is going to be is water drinking fountains. And I'm specifically going to call it piping because it goes kind of in the piping section. It just makes it easier when you have a lot of layers to specifically say, here's the type of layer that it has to go with. The water fountain only really has to do with piping. I mean, I could include it elsewhere, but it doesn't need to be. I'm going to set this to a gray color because I don't need it to be exciting and I don't need it to be a different type of color. And then I do want this line to be continuous. It's kind of a boring feature. So now that I have my 4 layers set up, now I'm ready to actually start drawing. Now the key to this is the way that I gave you this assignment. There's no need for. I mean, what you'll have is you'll have a sanitary sewer and storm sewer will run under a roadway. We're assuming that this entire thing is bounded by a roadway, so we could safely assume that there is a storm and a sanitary sewer line running all the way around this part that we could connect to. Now, if there was something on this site prior to us developing it, we could connect our pipe into an existing outlet that would have been blocked off at some point. That would be the most convenient way. It doesn't require shutting off the sewer. It's really easy to connect into an existing connection. Otherwise, you have to cut the pipe, replace a section of pipe, seal the pipe. It's kind of a hassle. So if there was an existing connection, we would want to connect to that. Here, because this is a theoretical park, we're going to assume that there's no existing connection point. We're just going to have to connect to the sewer as it is. Now, as I said, I could route my storm sewer into my lake. My lake is going to be a low elevation point. I don't really want to do that because that seems really gross, honestly. So I won't do that. I'm going to have it route out and it's going to go elsewhere. And again, we also have there's a city water line that comes from a main control box. Usually it's a box or some kind of something that sticks out of the ground or is even in a pit where you could go in there and you could actually shut off the water to sections of the city. We're going to assume that that box is located outside of this block and that we're just bringing water in from that water control unit. So that's where we're at. We've got all of those set up. Now it's just time to draw lines. So I'm going to go down here into piping, and first I'm going to draw in my city supply line. Now, oh no, before I do that, shoot, I'm going to go into my buildings, and I never did build a restroom here on these plans, so I'm going to draw a restroom real quick. Just terrible. I want my restroom to be, let's see, 16 feet by, let's do some math, calculator, I draw where 1 unit is equal to 1 inch. I like to do that. For most of you, you drew with 1 foot equals 1 inch. If you scale your drawing up by 12, you'll get the exact same thing. I just like to do that because it makes units a lot easier. So here, if I have 16 feet, so that's 192 inches. Multiply that by 2, 384 inches. Okay, so my dimension on my top is going to be 384 inches. Tab it over. I want each restroom to be about 12 feet deep, which is 144 inches. I'll hit the enter button, and there we go. Now I have a restroom facility that's located right here. I might even want to move it a little bit back, just so you don't have a building right on a sidewalk right like that. What I'll do is I'm going to divide my restroom in half. I'm going to come back and design this restroom at a later date. At the back of this restroom, I'm going to have some utilities because I'm going to be piping water and sanitary sewer to this location. This would be the best place to have a utilities building that would require some water, that would require some drainage. So I'm going to just throw a room on the back of this restroom. It's also going to be 386, I believe. Yeah, 386. And then I also would like this to be 12 feet deep. So this will be one bathroom, this will be another bathroom, this will be a utility space. Okay, now that I've got that located, what I will do is I'm going to go quickly put in my drinking fountains. Now when I put in my drinking fountains and when I put in my bathroom, I'm basically saying here's all of the spots where I'm going to need to bring water in. So I'm going to put a drinking fountain. Let's see. We'll say that we're just going to represent a drinking fountain by a 2 foot by 2 foot box. It's not very big. In fact, it's really small. But that's all we need for a drinking fountain. And I'm not even going to rotate it. In an actual drawing, you'd want to rotate it just so it looks clean. I'm not going to because it's just going to take up time, and all of you who are watching this video, you're already spending time watching it. Okay, now I'm going to copy and paste this, and when I do not want to have OSnap turned on. Object snap is where I see this corner right here. My cursor wants to go to that point. I'm going to turn off object snap so that I can just click and drag and position this as I will. We'll put another drinking fountain on this walking path over here. I'm going to put a drinking fountain. We'll assume that the people in this meeting area can just walk over to that drinking fountain if they need it. But I will put a drinking fountain right here, really close to the bathroom. Yeah, so we have 3 drinking fountains now. You know what? I'll put another drinking fountain over here. Just why not? You want kids to have access to water. It does require a lot more piping, but now we have our 4 drinking fountains in place. What I'll do now is I'm just going to draw in my supply lines. Now I have to connect a supply line that goes to each one of those 4 drinking fountains. Okay, and it has to connect somewhere into here, and then it also has to connect to my restroom. So a lot of different pipes that are coming in here. There's no one nice way of doing this. Now, I am going to say this. I'm going to have a separate pipe that goes straight to my bathroom, because quite frankly, I could assume that I could just draw a branch out of that. I'm going to have it come down here. It's going to go around this tree and straight to the wall out here. Okay. I'm now going to draw another line that goes from this location. Oh, I'm going to turn back my OSnap so I can connect the endpoints of my line. Draw one that goes from here to here, and then we'll draw one that goes from here to here. Okay, so this will allow us to have a utility sink here, and then 2 bathroom fixtures, sinks, toilets, we'll assume that there's some internal routing with this plumbing. We just need an outlet for all three of those. So those are our three flowing outlets. And really this is all that we need to establish that there are piping going into that. Now I am going to set all of the piping to my drinking fountains. Those are going to be on one circuit. The idea is that I could have this be shut off so that I could shut off my drinking fountain so that nothing freezes. Here, I do not want these. I'm not going to have them go under the sidewalk. I am going to have them go next to the sidewalk, but I do not want them to go under a tree. Okay, and then we'll have this go out to the wall like that, and we'll assume that there's some kind of a shut-off point right there where we could shut off that water. I do have one more drinking fountain down here that I haven't connected to. I'll just go ahead and grab that and drag it up like that. So now I have connections that go to each one of my drinking fountains and that go to my bathroom. They are different, and they're all blue in this very large dashed line. Now something I am going to do over here just for reference is I'm going to draw just a line over here. This is going to allow me to put something in my viewport so that I can see it later. We'll talk about that when I actually, when I finish this up. So now that I've got that piping in, we will do our sanitary sewer. Now the sanitary sewer, there's only going to be a sanitary sewer that comes out of here. All three of these rooms are basically going to connect to each other. I am probably going to want to have the inlet, well, the outlet sanitary sewer line be really close to the inlet wire. That just means I dig one trench and I put the sanitary sewer and the water lines right next to each other. It does make it kind of convenient for installation. So you'll notice that this is going to go out here. Now I am going to just route this underneath the sidewalk straight out here. Done. Solved that problem. Okay. So, and then I will also connect one more. I'm going to have to turn off OSNAP. No, I won't. No, I can do this with OSNAP. Click. And then just have an outlet so there's a connection point for all three locations leading to the sanitary sewer. I know it's kind of dark. It'll show up better in on the layout tabs. So I've got two. Now it's time for the storm sewer. With the storm sewer, basically what we're going to identify here is I'm going to create a rectangle. We'll use a very specific kind of storm grate. Those storm grates, we'll have them be 2 foot by 2 foot again, just because that's about the size of a storm grate. Now here, all the water that's going to be running off into this lake, I don't want that to go into a storm sewer. So this whole area right here, I'm not going to have any drainage for. I don't want to have any, so I will move this. Here's where I turn off my OSNAP again. We'll just put one over here. It'll kind of be next to a tree, but not really right next to it. So we've got drainage for this area here. I'm also going to include drainage for this area, I will put 2 drains in the parking lot. We'll put some drainage here as well. And then I'll assume that this one just sheds water off to the sides of it. So we'll have several different drains that we can use as a part of this. So here I'll put a drain. This drain will kind of be behind that facility. Again, you don't want water pooling on or around the sidewalk, so we'll just have the water go towards the drain. I'm going to put it back here kind of between 2 trees, so it's a little bit hidden. We'll put this drain back here behind this bench so that, you know, everybody looking backwards can see a nice beautiful drain. And then we'll put a drain over here, and then we'll have 2 drains present in the parking lot. Okay, now you can try to specify a little bit cleaner where all these lines are, but realistically speaking, I don't want to. Now, I'm going to take my, still on my storm sewer layout, layer, I'm going to turn back on my OSNAP, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect all of these basically to the roadway, where there would be a sanitary sewer, or a storm sewer that'd be running along here. Here, I'm going to want to drain water this direction, because I don't really want to have to try to dig through a lake. That sounds like a terrible idea. So, once again, I want to avoid the trees. I am going to put this directly under a sidewalk, just to make things a little nicer for me. And here, I'm just going to assume that it goes straight under that pad. Over to here. We do have a drain that's over here. I'm going to connect it in here, so because it is kind of hard to connect to the roadway. I'm going to use this existing trench that's going to be dug for the city line, so we'll just be able to use that right there. It should make that a little easier installation wise. And I think I still have 1, 2, 3 more. So I will just make sure that all of them are connected here. My sanitary sewer, you know what, I'm going to use the same sidewalk. So if there's any issues with any kind of drainage, it's all just going to go there. And then I will connect these two. There we go. And then this last one. There we go. I guess I could try to make that like a T-joint or something, but I don't care enough. Alright, so now I have all of my pipes established. Once again though, it'd be a good idea to come over here. Actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this line 3 times, just because I like consistency. And then I'm going to change the line layer, which is also going to change what the line looks like. And save me some time. So anytime I see this line, it goes to that layer. Anytime I see that line, it goes to that layer. Anytime I see this line, it goes to that layer. Okay, now I'm going to create a piping layout. So to do that, I right-click on an existing layout, go to From Template, find my AutoCAD, open it up. First thing I do whenever I create a brand new sheet is I go into it. I'm going to change the name of the sheet. This one's going to be 8 piping. And then I have to go in and adjust my my legend details. Now for me, I do have to delete this, but that's just because I've got problems. Here I am using architectural units because it's in feet and inches. The scale I'll figure out later. This is drawn by me. And then as far as page numbers go, right now this is page number 8. And I don't know what the total number is going to be because I'm going to add a restroom layout too. And you'll notice that this then updates. It's nice and clean and pretty. First thing I got to do is go in, add a rectangular layout. There we go. It's got all of these fun features on here. Now, because I'm done drawing, I'm going to go back and turn on all of the layers that I turned off earlier. There's a nicer way of doing this than the way I'm doing it, but I don't care. I am going to set a zoom scale. So here, ZSC, scale factor here that I want. I'm going to want 3 inches to be equal to, well, 1 inch equals 200 feet. So if 1 inch is equal to 200 feet, that means 1 inch, well, you have 12 times 200. So I have 2,400 inches in 200 feet. And then I do 1 divided by 2,400, and I get 4.1667 repeating digits. So my scale factor is going to be 0.000. Oh, gotta make sure that I get this right. 4167. Okay, and that's a little bit too small, so we'll double that. So times 2, 8.333 reading. So I'll go in here. I will, again, I'm in the model view. I'll hit Z, SC, 0.000833333. Okay, and this is a much nicer size. So I'll just move this off to one side because what I'll do is I'll have my park shown here, and then I'm going to put the legend over here on this side. Now, while I'm still in this viewport, I'm going to change my layer properties, and I'm going to Viewport Freeze, dimensions, foliage, grass. I'm going to leave the lakes on. I don't want lights, notes. I don't want any of my hatches, but I do want to leave them as boundaries. I am going to show my 4 different kinds of piping. I don't want the play surface, play structures to show up. I am actually going to keep my trees, but I'm going to remove the zones. So clicking on Viewport Freeze causes those layers to turn off. And you'll notice that this drawing is much cleaner now. I do still have my park benches, which I will, those ones I will shut off too. And I did keep my building too. Oh, and I needed to shut off my foliage because I don't want to see that. Okay. Alright, now I can double click out of this. This is how I want it. Now, with this double clicked out of it, I'm going to zoom out. And then I'm going to adjust my viewport so that it only shows the park. Now I'm going to do something fun with this, where I hit copy and move this over. Now this is going to be my working area. This doesn't show up on the paper at all. But what I'm going to do, double click in here, and then I'm going to pan over to my lines. Now you'll notice all of these lines show up as solid continuous lines, which didn't happen. I mean, that didn't happen on my other one, so this is kind of wasteful. We do have to do one thing in order to fix this. Okay, and I had to look this up online because I don't remember all the steps to make this happen, but here my lines, I want them to show up as dashed lines. So pull up some Google. Here's the official help from Autodesk. I just Googled how do I fix my line types, and a solution, we go into the layout and we fix it in the layout. So I'm going to zoom out. I'm currently in the layout. I will type PSLT scale, and then I will set that to 1. Hit enter. Okay, that did not help. Oh, and I have a line sticking out there. I'll have to fix that in the model view. Okay, then I click line type in this. So type line type, hit enter. Down here it says use paper space for scaling. We're going to turn that off. I'll hit OK. Okay. Oh, yeah, I didn't show you that. Line type. Here, when you do this, you'll have to hit show details because it doesn't show right there. You'll have to hit show details and then deselect use paper space units. Okay. Then I actually have to go into the viewport. So I double click in here and hit regen. And it should fix, and it does. So now all of my line types are the correct dash dot. And we can go in and adjust the line type scales for each one of these. You can actually make this smaller or larger. This is actually a nice scaling in my opinion, so I don't want to. But now that I have this, now I'm going to go ahead and copy this because I'm going to use this to build my legend. Those 3 lines that I made that was on the side, yeah, all I have to do is double click inside this viewport, pan over to those 3 lines, which now they all show up, double click out of it, and then I'm going to copy this. Well, I guess I should make it a little bit smaller before I do that. Shrink this viewport so that it just shows those 3 lines. Over here working off the page, I can do whatever I want outside of there. It's never going to show up. I'll drag this over here. I'm going to put my legend up here, and then I'll put my descriptions down here. Give myself a little bit of space. I'm going to go ahead and just drag it up. I'll take this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself a little bit of extra space right here. Copy this. Move it down. Move it down. Now, I did make a big mistake here. All of these are drawn in the storm sewer layer, which means that those pink backgrounds will show up. I'm going to change it to the viewport layer so they show up as yellow. That way they won't print. The yellow, I specifically set up the viewport layer so that it does not print. It's visible, you can see it, you can draw with it, but it won't print. So I like that. I'm going to take this, and then I'm just going to pan upward. And I'm going to do the same down here. Just pan upward twice. Okay, now if you really, really want to clean this up, what you can do, and I am going to do this, is I want these to all end at the same place. So I'm just going to crop the viewport, which does force them to all be the same length. It's kind of fun. I have a lot of fun tricks that I use when I do AutoCAD. There we go. Now you have 3 lines, all of them same distance. Fun times. I'm going to center all these lines as best as I can, just because I think that'll make it look nicer. There we go. So they're all centered. Now I can build my legend from this. Then I can go back and delete this because I don't need that viewport over there anymore. I'm going to type M text, which will allow me to type a multi-line text box. And then this one is just going to be the legend. Now for most of my text boxes, I do not use a scale of 0.2. It's a little bit too large, but I'm okay with typing the word legend in here. And I am going to change this friggin' layer. Yes, I want to keep my text changes. I'm going to change this to, I think I have a notes layer. Yeah. Okay, so that'll show up as black. I'm going to change my to the notes layer. And now I will create some multi-text lines. I'm going to make it about this long and about to the edge of the page. Okay. Again, as I said, 0.2 is just too big for me. I'll try 0.125. And this will be an 8-inch PVC supply line, and it will be 50 inches deep, and this will be city supply. Okay, and then for and now that I have this, I kind of want to have some space here, so I'm just going to separate these lines a little bit. Like that. And I'll copy the text box here. I don't like how the text boxes are so close. I'll move them all over. For my, let's see, that line is the sanitary sewer. This one will be a 16-inch PVC supply line. We'll call that a drain. Drail. Here, this is only going to be 40 inches deep. We don't really care as much if it freezes. And it does have to drain into a sewage plant, which I guess we can make it 60 inches deep. That way they can cross over each other. And then here, we're not going to make this PVC, we'll make this concrete. Drain line. And then we'll have this be 40 inches deep. And this will also be a 16-inch concrete drain line. And this one, instead of, this one's not city supply, this one is sanitary sewer. And this one here is storm sewer. Okay, and I'm going to select all of these. Just drag them over a little bit. I don't like them being right next to the line. So this is a really clean layout. I am going to put a notes box down here. Basically to say install piping at the same time to reuse trenches, because that was a design decision that I made. That was specifically why I had those go together, and why I had those go together so that they could be installed at the same time. So I will just write a quick note, text, have this go down here, change my text size 0.125, and say notes 1 use the same installation trenches. 2 here. Because I'm going to be putting it under sidewalks, you have to pour the sidewalks after you put the drain pipe in. Okay. Let's see. Just narrow this up a little bit so it doesn't go down there. And there we go. This is our final piping page. Looks nice, has some instructions. This instructions discuss the engineering design decisions that were made specifically for this page. I'm going to add one more. I don't care if they're exactly where the... So here, pipe are estimated, basically meaning that they don't have to be, that it doesn't have to be exact. There we go. Then I'll go ahead and save this. I'm going to put out another video next week that talks about how to design a restroom, because that is something that we haven't talked about in class before. But do keep in mind the deadline for this project is coming up